Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our Earth Abides Season 1, Episode 2 reaction and review.
Mhm.
I'm just going to say this from the start because I have seen a lot of the comments from our discussion on Episode 1 of a
Mhm.
lot of people not being so high on the show and feeling like, okay, it's way too slow. There's not enough happening. I see you and I understand you. I also disagree because here's the thing.
He's coming out, kicking down the door. What's good? Guns
How's
blazing.
everything going, guys? No, it's not that. I do agree with the assessment that it's slow, and I understand the frustration of a lot of people out there, especially because this show is on MGM Plus. It's coming on the heels of From, which was totally crazy with a million different things happening. But I think to me, there's just something very enjoyable about settling in and watching sort of the slow development of this world, the relationship between Ish and Emma in this episode, sort of seeing and understanding what they're doing to survive. Like, this is stuff that a lot of other shows in this particular genre, these post-apocalyptic thrillers, that they really tend to just gloss over. Now, do I want the show to be going somewhere eventually, that we do have a larger story? Yes, but I'm not in a spot right now where I'm just sitting back and complaining that everything is moving so slow and that I'm bored, because I'm not.
I'm not bored either. I think that this story for me is really compelling and really interesting. And yeah, we've covered a lot of, post apocalyptic
Yeah.
shows where it's The Walking Dead and everybody's trying to kill everybody and there's zombies and there's this. And those are really exciting shows. Absolutely. But I think that because it is on the heels of From, where that finale, we will
Yes.
give nothing away, but they gave us everything. We ate with that finale. There was so much happening that last season
Mhm.
and in that finale that I think we're all just like we're on the track and we're just running at full speed. And then they're pushing the show, of course, because it's
Yeah.
MGM. The From account is pushing the show as well to be like, hey, if you're still around, check this out. And we're like, yeah, cool, we'll
Yeah.
check this out. And then this show is so much slower paced that I think it's just a bit of a shock because we are all like in full sprint
Yeah.
into a show that's like, all right, let's sit back, let's see what's happening. Things are, unfolding over time and it's building to a richer story and landscape and what this world is like and what they have to go through to try to move forward in different problems that are coming up, like pregnancy, the rats, having to actually kill something to be able to eat it if you're not someone who's a hunter or has
Yeah.
adapted to that. I was looking at that whole situation with Ish and the cow, and I was like, I don't know if I'd be able to. I'd
I
like to
know.
think I'd be able to if my partner really needed protein, that I could get through it. But like when he took that first shot and was like, oh my God, it didn't go there. I was
I
like,
know.
oh, I can't. Like, I think this show is really rich. I am really enjoying it.
I think it's handling everything in a really realistic way where
Yeah.
these people are struggling. They're having a hard time finding solutions to things. They're making it clear they're not experts. I enjoy having a legion of cats to do battle with all of the rats and everything that's going on.
Yeah, this is one of the first times I've seen one of these types of genre shows like about the end of the world and
Yeah.
everything that's going on, where there is an actual rat problem, which would actually be happening.
Yeah, I think they establish a lot of interesting stuff, but they also do give us an ending in episode 2 that suggests, okay, there might actually be some conflict coming, and there's
Somebody's coming.
yeah, like there's something legitimate to talk about and be concerned about there, but I think it's important that we get to know Ish and Emma so that we're invested in them and we care about them
Yep.
as we move into whatever that is. But we'll get more into it. But be sure to hit that subscribe button now so you guys don't miss any of the rest of our coverage here of Earth Abides. And there's a lot of other great television on right now as well,
Mhm.
including Silo on Apple TV Plus. And
Mhm.
also the premiere of Dexter Original Sin is right around the corner. Jess and I are huge Dexter fanatics. We have been in that world for a really long time, and there's a lot to discuss with this show.
Yeah, we will have videos up on that show every week. So if you're watching Dexter Original Sin, we are as well. And also, we are covering right now Doom Prophecy over on our Patreon. Is the only place that you can get those videos every single week. We'll leave the link for you below if you want to join. It helps Matt and I here at the channel, and you get exclusive coverage of Doom Prophecy. We just finished up with The Penguin, and we're going to be having another poll coming up soon for our patrons to decide on what show we're going to be doing next over there just for you guys. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate that.
Okay, so you said something really important there, which is that they're taking their time. They've given us like this year-long period of where Ish meets Emma, their love story. Yes, they're the last man and woman on earth kind of thing, but over time it has turned into this love story. They do get along really well. They get to know each other really well. They have a child together now. He's putting solar in, all of that. I think this time that we've taken to get to know them is what is going to make whoever's feet we saw in this like last part of the episode just that little more terrifying, because just because Ish and Emma are good people, and that they're like, you know, we're gonna work this out. Even Ish, when he met Milton and Anna, you know, they were on a different route than him, but they weren't bad people. So far, everyone that we have met is still above board, but that doesn't mean everyone will be. So who has Emma invited into their life?
This was a really big risk, what she's done, and sort of signaling out to people where they are. And
her full address. She just like put it out. Hey, we're living over at this house. Come on by. I was like, why would you do such a thing?
Nobody would ever do this in the real world. It's way, way, way too scary. Now, I understand from an emotional perspective maybe where she's coming from, where she understands what it's like to be alone, because she was alone for a really, really long time. Same as Ish, and they probably don't want that fate for everybody else. But with that being said, it's a little bit different once you're introducing a child into the mix and you have somebody else that you have to think of that can't really think for themselves. And that's where things get really, really tricky. Like, sure, I would love for these footsteps to be, you know, nice and innocent John, who's just showing up and being like, hey guys, I'm just here to be your friend. What can I do? And but at the same time, I think this is going to be malevolent John, and I don't think innocent John is going to be stopping by, just because if everybody is just happy and eager and peaceful, there's not really much of a show here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, we just watched a whole episode of them, you know, farming and getting meat and getting solar together and, you know, getting pregnant and delivering the baby and like all reading books and getting to know each other and falling in love. And I found all of this really compelling. And I feel in my heart there's going to be a lot of people out there that are like, nah, I wanted to give it one more episode, but not enough is happening at this point. But I just feel like if this is the whole season, I'm ready to eat with this show, because I have watched we cover a lot of really high stakes shows here. I mean, we're covering Silo as well. Bad Sisters and Before, which is just like off the walls on Apple TV right now. So to have a show like this, where it's a bit slower paced and it's less about the end of the world and the end of people and more about how people treat each other who are left and how they are able to not just survive but thrive and move forward. I feel like it's just a nice like palate cleanser.
Yeah, I think the show functions well in that particular headspace. And I don't think that this person has to be malevolent, John, or has to like completely start off bedlam in this town. But what I think could happen, and this is just a tinfoil hat theory, because for those of you who don't know,
tinfoil hat on.
This is based on a book. We have not read the book, so we are just kind of swinging from the hip here. Don't spoil anything, but okay. What I think could happen here, and this would be interesting to me, is that this person is showing up perhaps to welcome them somewhere else, because I think just the odds of them being the last people on Earth, these three people, incredibly unrealistic. Like, I like to think that somewhere out there, there's a small community of people, and maybe this person is showing up to sort of put that out there for them. Or maybe saying that this place is out there, but they're not able to go alone. And maybe they can all go together, because this would at least kind of tonally stay with where the show is, where it's about people and it's about emotional decisions. This idea of, do we want to leave this home that we have built for ourselves, that we know is pretty safe, that we have cared for, to go to this other place where, yeah, we can help rebuild society, but we don't know these other people. We don't know what sort of dangers could arise there. Like, I think that would be a very interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, especially since Emma has said that she wants to be surrounded by love and more people, and that that's something that she's missing. But is it possible that this person's just going to come in and disrupt the love that's happening here? I mean, there's also that human aspect. What if John is just average John, and
Yeah.
he's good, he's bad, he's like both of them, where he's like, hey, I'm just like an average John, and I'm in here to thanks for inviting me in. Oh, me and Emma, we also have a really good connection. Sorry, Ish. And it starts to kind of like change the dynamics, because now there's three adults in here, and two of these adults have a child together because they were the last two people, right? But
Yeah.
what if this John comes in and he's like her love of her life?
I do think that we have to sort of prepare ourselves for the storylines coming up here to be mostly about these sort of emotional reckonings. The what if somebody else comes in and has a connection with them? The what if there is this larger place? Do we go? Do we not go? What if this person is bad? What do we do? Do we really want to take out one of the last other remaining people on Earth just to preserve our own hides, when they could help further along the future in some way? Like, there's a lot of things that the show can really grapple with that maybe they're not super action packed, but they could also still be kind of really interesting to talk through and think about.
Well, yeah, that's a thing too, right? Where we've seen Ish with Anna and Milton, and they just did that to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't had to do that to another person. He never saw another person again
Yeah.
for a year until he saw Emma. Emma is out there taking animals out so that she can eat, and she's a hunter, and that's all fine. But we haven't heard anything really. Has she had to do this to another human? We know that
Yeah.
Ish has not had to. If this person comes in and they are some sort of a threat, or they end up becoming a threat, or there ends up becoming some sort of weird tension, jealousy, where they end up having to take this person out, how do they deal with that? And that's something that you don't see that often on these shows. It just feels like, oh yeah, we're in this dystopian world now. We just be killing everybody and not feeling nothing about it. We're great with it. It's fine. We built up our tolerance. Look at me killing people, right?
Yeah.
But here's the very beginning, where these two people have not done this. So it would be very interesting to see the very start of that.
Yeah, I just really find it fascinating that Alexander Ludwig is the star of this show, who is known for getting in giant battle sequences on Vikings. And now he is basically like, okay, for this job, you're just going to be by yourself. The biggest battle you're going to have is with a cow. It is a very different sort of environment for him. I think he's doing a great job as
Yeah,
Ish.
he
I'm
is.
like really being brought in to this world. I think after these two episodes, there's a couple of assumptions we can make here.
Mhm.
Number one, you're never really going to get more information as to why all this happened in the first place. Like, they've told
Probably
you
not.
basically everything that you're going to be figuring out
Right.
now. I don't think personally that this is something that's still going to be a danger. I'm just going to assume that this is done, and that this is not a show about anybody else getting sick. This is a show that's now going to be about, how do these people rebuild with what's still out there.
I will say that it was good to see a little more sort of chaos and bodies and stuff like that when they went to the hardware store. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so I understand that there was like a stay at home. So all the houses that don't have a for sale sign
Yeah.
probably have people in them. And that's the way that it went. And for me, when he was in Las Vegas, it was so pristine and so perfect, and not a body, not even a glass sitting on a slot machine, that I was like, okay, did they have like a stay at home, everybody go to your hotel rooms, but the clean staff, make sure you get everything cleaned up here before you go? I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. But this makes more sense where it's like, it's not piles of bodies. It's like, oh, there's a body here, a little couple of cars that are left. All of that made way more sense to me where I was like, okay, this is it.
I can buy into this world, I would say, better than I could fully everything that we saw in episode one. And I think some of that's probably just we have two characters, we have 2 points of view now. It seems like the world is closing in a little bit. You're not venturing to another city. You're not dealing with like the logistical challenges
Mhm.
of a lot of that. I mean, instead, now we're just in a situation where the challenge is how do these people keep living? How can they raise a child in a situation like this? Who is
Mhm.
this stranger? Am I going to end up loving Lucky the dog more than I already do, which feels like that's impossible? I love this dog. The dog needs to be protected at all costs.
I know. How could they leave him outside with those
I know. I was
rats?
so upset.
I will say that rat scene,
Yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah.
I was terrified, and I love rats. I used to have a rat growing up as a pet. I've had
Mhm.
all kinds of weird pets, but I had a rat growing up, and they're really lovely pets. But at the same time, they're also highly intelligent. They can be highly destructive, and in a pack, they
Yeah.
can be terrifying.
Yeah. I think this show is scary in its own way, and it's playing up the idea of scariness in a situation like that. It's playing up the scariness that kind of comes from being lonely. And I think it's doing all of that really, really well. Like, am I going to come out of these 2 episodes and be like, is Earth abides for everybody? The clear answer to that is going to be no, because I think a lot of people watch television, especially in 2024
Mhm.
now, to have sort of their brain synapses flying on all cylinders, going in all these different directions, to be constantly distracted because our brains all move 100 miles an hour now because we're on social media and online all the time. And this show is kind of the antithesis of that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I really like it for just that. I don't know what it is
Hmm.
about right now for me, but after From and Silo and all these other things that have been going on this year for TV has been great. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been lots of like really dark murder mysteries, vampires, everything. I have found myself the past 2 weeks watching shows and watching movies that I would never watch in my whole life, like Hot Frosty on Netflix. I just watched Our Little Secret with Lindsay Lohan. I'm just saying what I'm saying. I can't even believe I'm sharing this. But the point of it is that then in comes Earth Abides as well, which again feels like a bit of a palate cleanser where I'm so inundated with shows that are dark, people getting killed, monsters, teleportation,
Yeah.
reincarnation, all kinds of dystopian things are just like woo. And then I have a minute and it's just like I just want to watch Hot Frosty and just turn my brain off a little bit, or I want to watch Earth Abides, and I just want to have a really interesting introspective look at two people who are in an unusual situation that are trying to find a way to live with each other, have a relationship, get power, deal with the rats. I really like this show. It came on for me at a perfect time.
I think it's a really cool exercise as a show into whether or not something like this still works for an audience
Right?
today. That's really so much about we need to have something. It's sort of like you go back and you watch a comedy film from the 70s or the 80s where there's, laugh out loud moments here or there, but then you compare that to a movie that's come out in the last 10 or 15 years where it's like, okay, we need a joke every 30 seconds, even like Anchorman, a movie that by and large I love. There's really this emphasis of, okay, there has to be a joke at almost every single moment when it's like, okay, the world didn't work like this once upon a time. And is something like this still going to work for viewers? That's the part of this that I don't know. It's working well for us. I mean, the only real critique I have of the show is just that it's 6 episodes long and it's been billed as a limited
Mhm.
series. And I do worry just from that vantage point that there's not going to be enough time for there to really ever be any action. And I do think we need to be building towards something specific. But for now, I'm enjoying the vibes and I'm enjoying sort of being around this world.
It is only 6 episodes, so that's the thing. If they're telling a complete story, and we know that limited series,
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like a limited series, and most times these days are like, oh, this is popular. Now we have Big Little Lies season 18, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it because they do want this to be like beginning, middle, and an actual end, there isn't really enough time, I think, to bring in something crazy like, you know, John's going to come in and show up at the house and be like, I'm going to bring you to the Commonwealth. And there's 50,000 people and all these crazy things are happening, because then how do you end that in 6 episodes? And that was only 4 episodes left. It's not really enough time to build it crazy and then actually still have an end. So I think tinfoil hat, I mean, we haven't
Yeah.
watched ahead or anything like that. It just feels like this is the pace. So if you're into this pace, I'm into this pace. Matt's into this pace.
Yeah.
We're going to be here every week talking about it. Don't forget that episodes 4 and 5 are going to be airing together.
Yeah, because I continue to forget about that. The scheduling for
Yeah,
the show
the
is
schedule for the show.
it's kind of just really weird in that way, but it's okay. Like I'm really enjoying what this show is, what it's bringing us to the table right now, and because we don't know the source material and because they've sort of shielded so much of the outside world from us,
Mhm.
it really does feel like it could almost go anywhere when it comes to the sort of characters they're bringing in, the stories they want to bring up, and like, that to me is just very, very exciting, and I like being surprised. I hope this show does continue to do that in ways that I could never even expect.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like it will. I'm really enjoying the pacing of it. I know, like Matt said,
Yeah.
we've seen people in the comments that are just like, oh man, this thing is so slow. It is, but
Yeah.
for me, I still really enjoy it.
Well, let us know what you think about this episode
Yeah.
and if you're planning to continue to watch it. But hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the rest of our Earth Abides coverage. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description below. We're covering Dune Prophecy exclusively over there. And we'll see you guys here next time.